All right, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to Farming from Coast to Coast with EarthEcho International. We are so excited to have all of you watching us on this last week before your holiday break. My name is Allie Toomey. I am the Education Coordinator for EarthEcho International. We do these virtual field trips about once a month, and we are so excited to have everyone with us today. Before we get started, I just have a little bit of housekeeping to share with a couple of you. This is live and interactive, so we do want to have you participate as much as you can. Everyone has the opportunity to ask questions during the Hangout today, even if we can't see you on screen. If you are watching through Google+, you can submit your questions using the Q&A app, which you should see just to the side of your video. If you see someone that has the same question that you do, go ahead and give that question a +1. That way we know that more than one person has that question. If you are watching on the EarthEcho International website, there you'll find a Google form under the video. Simply type in your question or your comment, send it into that Google form. I'll get it here at EarthEcho headquarters, and we'll share those towards the end of the Hangout. Keep them coming the whole time. All right, I'm going to go ahead and introduce a couple people that we have with us today. We have Caroline from Warwick High School. She's going to be actually leading and hosting the rest of this Hangout, so I'm going to send it over to her. Go ahead, Caroline.
Hi, so yes, I'm Caroline Kent, and we're here at Warwick High School. Behind me is Mrs. Hawkrader's Wildlife and Animal Science class. They can say hi. Hi. And I'm also the Pennsylvania 4-H State Council President and the President of the FFA chapter here at Warwick. We will be guiding the discussion here today.
All right. Let's go ahead and have our farmers introduce themselves. So let's start with our farmer from Lancaster County. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. Happy to be here and happy to be with you. Roger Rohr. I farm here in Strasburg Township with my two sons, Todd and Mark, and my wife, Candy. We have a diverse operation, as many Lancaster County farmers do. We have poultry. We actually grow about 160,000 birds at a time for upwards of $1 million a year in 6 houses. We are on one of our farms. We have another farm about a mile away. Both farms have very similar scale and scope of operation. This one's a little bit larger. We also grow row crops, wheat, soybeans, corn, and grass hay. And we also have a retail mulch business, which is recycling our poultry litter. We're about an hour west of Philadelphia, and halfway between where we live and Philadelphia is the mushroom capital of the world, Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. And we, on a typical year, we will export about 35 tractor-trailer loads of poultry litter to Kennett Square, and we will bring about 35 loads of spent mushroom soil back from Kennett Square. They use our poultry litter for nutrients to grow 2 crops of mushrooms, and it's pretty well spent of nutrients, and it comes back here, and we sell it to our neighbors and landscapers that adds organic matter to their gardens and flower beds. So that's the scale and scope of our operation. We just really enjoy Lancaster County agriculture and happy to be with you.
Great. Mary?
Yes, my name's Mary Richert, and I live in northeastern California. My husband and I are the managing partners of an operation known as the Prather Ranch. We're a vertically integrated cow-calf operation that's very unique in that we not only raise these animals for a branded beef product, but we also raise them for biomedical purposes in humans, whether it's we sell cow bones to a company in Florida, or we sell hides to a company in Pennsylvania, etc. And these byproducts from these animals are used for human use for medical purposes. We're a vertically integrated operation. As I said, we raise most of our feed. We have our own USDA federally inspected slaughterhouse on site on the ranch. We have about 1,450 mother cows. There's about over 3,000 head total. And we process about 1,200 animals a year through our processing facility. We have retail markets. We're a partner in a retail outlet in San Francisco at the Ferry Building, and we sell branded beef product throughout Northern California. We also raise about 10,000 tons of hay, and we also lease ground for strawberry nursery plants, where we're in a high elevation, 4,400 foot elevation, and the strawberry nursery plants are grown at that elevation and then shipped down as plants to Southern California, Central California coast, where they grow there. We operate in 5 counties in California, in Northern California, and on about 34,000 acres of deeded and leased land. And about 50% of the land is preserved forever in conservation easements. I can talk about that later a little more and explain what conservation easement is. But it gives us the opportunity to do a lot of long-range planning with these operations, because they will never be developed into a subdivision or anything like that. So they'll always be a cattle operation. About 3 years ago, we installed two solar arrays, and our slaughterhouse, it's a 5,000 square foot facility, is powered by solar, which is a really unusual thing in this day and age. So that kind of, I'm trying to give you a kind of a brief summary. We are very concerned about the environment, and we are also certified humane with our cattle operation. So we've been in operation since 1979. My husband and I have been involved with this property, this ranch, and so it's been about 35 years, and we've really enjoyed building it to the operation that it is today. So thank you.
Great. Do you want to go ahead, Caroline, and lead the next question?
In Central California and Lancaster County, PA, are both very different from each other. Can you each tell us a little bit about the climate and the soil in the area and are best suited for growing? What other types of agriculture do you have in your area?
Roger, I think you're muted.
Okay, I'm good now.
Perfect. And let me know when you want me to pull up the photographs.
Okay. Yeah, Mary perked my imagination here. We are also preserved. This farm and our other farm, Lancaster County, is the leading county in the country in ag preservations. We're over 100,000 acres, so we have a lot in common. In addition, this farm's been in the family since 1893. I'm 4th generation, and Todd and Mark are 5th generation. So, and we also have solar. So anyway, back to your question. Lancaster County and South Central Pennsylvania is very diverse. We have a very large livestock and poultry industry, both meat birds and egg birds and turkeys, along with hogs, cattle finishing, specialty crops. We are one day's drive away from 40% of the United States population, which gives us a great marketing opportunity for just about all kinds of products that we can get there fresh. So when you hear the buy local, buy fresh, Lancaster County is buy local, buy fresh to a lot of people. We get about 36 inches of rain a year, which is probably more than Mary gets, and we have limestone soils. Limestone soils are good and bad. The good part is they have moisture holding capacity. They're very naturally fertile. They give us really strong production for non-irrigated land, and probably the best in the country and maybe the world. The challenge is limestone provides for an environmental challenge, and it has to be managed properly. Forget all the other parts of the question that were asked, but I think I covered most of them. Oh, climate. Climate in our area is a great area. We have 4 distinct seasons. It can be 0 and 100 degrees in the same calendar year, and oftentimes it is. You know, the people that live here just love that change of seasons, and half of them like winter and half of them hate winter, but they all live here and all enjoy it. So 36 inches of rain. Most of the time we get what we need to grow very good crops and provide a comfortable environment for our livestock.
Mary, go ahead.
Yes, The Prather Ranch operates, as I said, in 5 counties in very northern California. We actually are in Siskiyou County, which borders the Oregon border. So we actually range in very diverse elevations throughout these 5 counties, and we move the cattle. In the summertime, they are in the mountain operations. They're on properties that range from about 3,300-foot elevation to 4,400-foot elevation. So we take advantage of in California, the opportunity of having mountains and valleys. So in the wintertime, we don't like to have our cattle in these high elevations because we do have generally more precipitation. As you know, California has been experiencing a drought for the last 3 years. But in a normal situation, we will have a lot of rain and snow at these higher elevations. So in the wintertime, we haul our cattle down to our what we call our winter ranges. And we have several properties that we either own or lease in the northern Sacramento Valley in the foothills. And this gives the cattle the opportunity, one, to get out of the rain and the snow. They actually do better in a warmer climate, and they're able to graze on grazing land where have obviously thousands and thousands of acres, and the grass will grow during the wintertime normally when it does rain. And we're finally getting rain, by the way, the last couple of months. It's been pretty refreshing. But it gives us the opportunity to have less of an impact on the environment. The cattle, this way, they're not in the mountains in the wintertime. We're not having to feed hay. We use less fossil fuel, and they're not damaging the pasture or the feeding area or in muddy conditions or snowy conditions. This way, the cattle are down on the winter ranges, and they're able to roam free. The calves do better. They gain better, and it's just a healthier process for everyone. One thing that is different about our operation is that we are a closed herd as a result of our biomedical part of the business, and so we cannot use commercial cattle transportation. So we have one truck, and we have to haul, virtually 3,000 head up and down the mountains. So sometimes fuel costs, luckily their gas prices, diesel's down right now, which is good, but we do have a lot of cattle hauling involved with this particular herd. But primarily, what we do, the way we operate, is to protect the land and optimize the conditions for the cattle so they can gain as best they can in these 2 different geographical areas. As far as the climate is concerned, as I said, in the higher elevation operation where the cattle are primarily in the summertime, we can get quite a bit of snow. We have in the last 3 years. And our precipitation will be 20-30 inches a year. And in the lower elevations, a normal year is 30 to 40 inches in a lot of the winter ranges, and we're hoping this year that we reach that goal. So I think that covers it. Allie, back to you. Or
let's go to Caroline, actually.
Oh, Caroline, okay.
Along with the benefits each area represents also come some challenges. What challenges do you face in your area?
I'll go first. Yes, yeah, there are. That doesn't matter where you operate a farm today. You've got challenges. Our greatest challenge in South Central Pennsylvania has to do with our downstream partner, the Chesapeake Bay. This farm, in addition to stormwater runoff, also is challenged by having 3 municipal wells adjacent to 2 to this farm and 1 to the other farm. Most of the water that comes off of this farm recharges those municipal wells. Those wells are under 400 foot of limestone bedrock. They are, of course, a lot of investment in those. And we have, the quality of the water that infiltrates that aquifer is a big deal to us, along with the whole Susquehanna River draining into the Chesapeake. With the help of a lot of partners, we have installed just about every possible BMP that we think is economically feasible. We have riparian buffers on both farms, reforestation, riparian buffers, terraces, waterways, diversions. We've gone to no-till farming, which has been a big benefit. Most of these BMPs have not only been the right thing to do environmentally, but have been economic. They have long-term benefits. We've seen just tremendous improvements in the quality of the water that does run off, less water running off, and better crops with all the BMPs that are involved. We have solar installed in all 4 poultry barns to help offset electric charges. Yeah, if you want to pull up the 1947 picture, overhead picture of the farm, again, I'm 4th generation, so the prior generations really farmed differently than we do today, mostly moldboard plowing. And the challenge that we have is sediment and poultry litter runoff that has occurred, and stabilizing and managing that appropriately. We are in a race from a production, from a farmer's standpoint. We're in a race in, can we clean up and reduce our erosion and sediment and nutrient runoff at a pace fast enough to correct the, I'll quote, sins, unquote, of previous generations. And I'm not blaming them, because they were doing what they thought was best. We are doing what we think is best. If we farmed today, 100 years ago, like we're farming today, there would be no issues in the Chesapeake Bay. I'm convinced of that, or Susquehanna, or any other. Unfortunately, there's a lot of legacy sediment that lays in our streams and behind our mill races and just in our low-lying fields, and that is where the low-hanging fruit is, and we're working very hard through education and money from many sources to try to stabilize that issue and reduce both runoff and nutrients. We do manage our nutrients micromanaged. We found our cation exchange on our soils is very low, which means it doesn't hold nitrogen for long periods of time. We apply nitrogen to our wheat and corn. It basically spoon feed it in 3 or 4 different applications. We test our plants at the end of the season to see the nitrate level there. We, of course, no-till, monitor soil tests frequently to make sure that we don't have soils that are in excess of nutrients. Not only is that good business, but it's actually regulation for our farm with our Act 38 that we abide by. So challenges are basically managing the production, the crop production, and the litter production. Fortunately, we have an outlet for our litter. We do use about 150 tons on our corn ground and wheat ground annually, but we export about 800 tons to Kennett Square. Like I said, it comes back as with spent mushroom soil. Not a lot of vegetation in the 1947 picture. There, if I showed you an overlay today, there would be woods on almost all the steepest slopes, and everything would be no-till, and we farm on the contour to try to keep the water on the farm.
Yeah, Roger, do you want me to show that aerial photo that was taken this year?
You can. It was actually taken 10 years ago, but it's still, today would be even more impressive, but we do a lot of cover crops, a lot of residue farming, and just a lot of improvement. And the bottom line is, if we were farming today, like we are today in 1900, be no issues. Unfortunately, we're trying to recover the damage that's been done, and it's very difficult to do. And the sustainability of our farm is not only environmental but economic. So we got to try to make it work both ways.
And Roger, we just had a question come in that I do want to kind of interrupt and have you answer right now. One of our classes is wondering if you could actually just explain what a BMP is, what that stands for.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's
BMP
fine. We have
is an acronym for best management practice. And it is it's a phrase used by land managers that has been tested and researched and technically approved as a BMP. And we can get, for most people that raise their hand, we can get partial or full funding for BMP improvements on farms. This has been ongoing for decades, and all you got to do is raise your hand, and we have people and organizations that would be happy and tickled to be out there and design a BMP for you.
Great. Let's go to Mary. Mary, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that you guys deal with?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Of course, there are many challenges when you're trying to run an operation in 5 counties, and that's probably one of the bigger ones. Is we have long distances it's about 250 miles from tip of one property to the most southern end of it. So that's kind of challenging. As a matter of fact, last year, I'll tell a story on ourselves, but we, for the first time ever in all these years, on these winter ranges, we don't have full-time employees living there. You just financially, you can't justify to put full-time employees. We ended up being actually having about 45 heads stolen, and so this was the first time this has happened to us ever. But that's an example of a challenge. And this and the cost of beef these days, per pound, it was a group of yearlings, and it was about a $50,000-$60,000 loss. We have no idea what happened to them. There was kind of several ranchers had lost cattle in that particular area. So that's one challenge. Another challenge is living in California. We're highly regulated, so regulations are a huge problem. We have to pay a fee for irrigated pasture land, and I serve on a state board of forestry and fire protection, and there's a discussion right now in the state about starting to regulate water quality monitoring on all the 33 million acres of rangeland. So that's another problem that we do face, and there's just regulation after regulation in California. Another problem is that we operate primarily in fairly isolated areas of California, and your employee pool source is to being able to find people that are willing to live in kind of remote rural areas that are very kind of socioeconomically depressed too. So there is a bit of a challenge to have employees. We run about 15 employees in the wintertime and about 28 in the summertime when we have our haying operation up and going. So that's another challenge. Of course, developing our product, we raise these cattle from the time we breed them, raise them, harvest them, and process the meat, package it, and then of course we're a long ways from markets. It's about a 6-hour drive from the processing plant to San Francisco, so that could be a bit of a challenge at times. So that's one of the other challenges. Another thing is climate fluctuation, and we've really felt the impact in the last 3 years. The calves haven't gained as much. We've had to feed hay, which is more expensive because of the drought. Another thing that I would like to mention is, and it's been an issue in all of Northern California, primarily over on the coast, what they refer to as the Emerald Triangle, but we are experiencing problems with illegal marijuana growing, and especially in Shasta County, Tehama Glen, and so it's always a little bit. We've had several situations where we found out on some of our grazing land that there had been some illegal grows that have been busted, or they're taking our water. And one of the concerns that I really have, and I can't emphasize enough, is all the herbicides, rodenticides, insecticides, and pesticides that these illegal grows have occurring, and there actually a lot of wildlife is dying, and there's been a lot of testing of the wildlife, and you'll find residual chemicals in everything. And of course the runoff, they're taking our water upstream. We're not sure what on the creeks, etc., that our cows have to drink out of, what chemicals are in that water. So that's the environmental impact of this, I think, is we're just beginning to learn how detrimental these illegal grows are. I was at a board meeting last week, and we had a presentation on this subject, and I was shocked. One of the presenters was showing one of the watersheds that comes through one of our winter ranges, and he was sharing with our board that there was 220 illegal marijuana grows upstream from that. So it was very demoralizing to think that we try everything we can to protect our environment, take care of our cattle, protect the water, and yet we're at the mercy of a lot of these illegal growers upstream. So that just is a few of our challenges. Caroline?
Okay, I know you both kind of touched on this already, but what management practices have you put in place to deal with these challenges? Have other agencies or people helped you along the way?
Yes, I'll try that one. I did mention a number of the management practices we have. Actually, we've been trying to make improvements through a variety of programs and partners over the last 15 years, since like 1990, and it's a slow process sometimes, but it's a step at a time. we've found the strategy that's provided by the Conservation District, NRCS, Chesapeake Bay Foundation, all the organizations that are just waiting for somebody to raise their hand. We have found their strategies work best, and sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's even longer to implement BMPs. And the low-hanging, every farm has low-hanging fruit. What's the limiting factor? You know, right now there's a campaign in our area with some of our smaller dairies to really try to fence out the cattle out of the stream, which is low-hanging fruit. You get a lot of environmental bang for the buck. Also, high activity areas outside of a dairy barn where the vegetation is denuded. There's remedies for that. There's just all kinds of tools and technology available that the county and also the region has support to help. So we've gotten help from all those organizations, plus our local consultants, Team Ag and Red Barn, have done a great job giving us advice, both agronomy, from agronomy standpoint, and a soil and litter testing standpoint. So we have a lot. This is a unique area in the support that we have. I can review, you know, we're just constantly looking for things that meet that word sustainable, both from an economic standpoint and an environmental standpoint. We are very, very concerned and very, very challenged by the regulation that's just in front of us as a county and as a state and as a region, and meeting that challenge. And so it's a hot issue. We're probably spending some money on some BMPs and improvements that maybe won't pay off, but we almost have to use the shotgun approach in trying a lot of things to meet that regulation that's coming down the pike. I'm confident the local area has people, has farmers. Our farmers and producers are just really have stepped up to challenge on most every challenge that we've had in the last 100 years, and we will meet this challenge. One of the things that I can tell you on our farms, and this is my last comment on that subject, is we have installed reforestation buffers. The one here is 13 years old, the one on the other farm is 3 years old, and when it rains in this area, I said we had 36 inches of annual rainfall, more or less. Sometimes we get 2 inches at a time. Sometimes we get 5 inches at a time. It's just one of those areas of the country that occurs. There's no better remedy for that type of a storm than a reforestation buffer, and what that does to mitigate the sediment and the nutrients that are trying to get into the stream and just have a hard time doing it. That reforestation, those trees suck up a lot of that residue that ends up filters down through there before that water gets actually to the stream. So that would be my first choice. And when somebody says, "What's the best BMP you've installed?" And on a side note, our family really loves white-tailed deer. We love watching them, we love managing them, and we love hunting them. And there's our CREP programs, our reforestation buffers, are just great wildlife habitat.
Great, Mary.
Okay, I have a list here of 22 different agencies that we've used at different times that for different grants or cost share programs, and so I could go on for quite a while on this subject. One thing we have done is with NRCS is we've participated in a lot of EQIP programs. We do a lot of riparian fencing so that we can keep cattle off of these very kind of sensitive stream banks, and the valley that we actually live in, or I always say I'm registered to vote in this valley because I'm on the road a lot, but this particular fishery is called the Fall River, and it's very well known for its trout streams. And so we actually the irrigated land that we operate on, it's certified organic, and so that way we're really being careful about making sure no pollutants go into the river. We have cattle watering ramps, and then the cattle, there's just certain areas where they're able to go down and water along the river. We've had an enormous amount over the last 25-30 years of projects that we've done. We just finished one recently, was with Ducks Unlimited, where we really increased on this particular ranch that we live on. Is we built a lot of ponds and channels, so we're increasing the waterfowl habitat here on this particular ranch. Again, we've several of the ranches, the winter ranges, we have a lot of solar water troughs, and so that's kind of a very sustainable practice where we just have these pumps, and they're generated by solar panels, and so the cattle are able to have water in water troughs, and they're not accessing the creeks and the river beds, and it's just a better practice in terms of for the environment. The other thing is, as I touched on lightly before, is conservation easements. Conservation easements, of course, is you put the property in to an agreement where it'll never be divided, and it will go into perpetuity. The property will never be developed, and so that way these lands are protected forever. It will always be a cattle ranching operation. Another thing we have done over the years is a Cfa program. It's a California Forest Improvement Act program where we've harvested trees and then planted quite a few. That's just touching on a few of the things. We've had just all kinds of grants and cost share programs that we've participated with over the years to improve the wildlife and environmental issues that these ranches could encounter. One thing that I particularly like on a lot of our fencing projects, we use the bottom wire on the barbed wire fences is a smooth wire so that the wildlife can go underneath the fence without getting snagged on barbed wire or anything like that. So there's a lot of things little things that you can do that will actually be beneficial for the wildlife. Caroline?
Actually, Mary, if we could, before we go back, I have those photos that you shared with me. I'm going to share those with everyone. If you wouldn't mind just kind of giving everyone a virtual tour of your farm. So are you able to see those on the screen?
I can. This is the headquarters. This is the ranch that's at 4,400 foot elevation. These pictures were taken. I actually took these pictures, but we did a photo shoot and an article in Food and Wine magazine. I think that's what it's called. A few years ago, and so I grabbed my camera when the other photographers were taking pictures. But anyway, here we are. Some of our cowboys on horseback moving the cattle underneath our entrance to the headquarters. So I don't know what you've got in the next. This is a picture of one of our winter ranges. As you can see, in the winter, we have green grass. That way the cattle are not up in the mountains. This is a low elevation. This is about 800 to 1,000 foot elevation, this particular ranch. It's a Ralph's Newville ranch. And the grass grows during the winter, and then the cattle are out there, and really they just do better and function. They gain better, the calves gain better, and everything. This particular slide is a picture of the headquarters also. This is one of the ponds that we have, and you'll see up behind it is the headquarters is in pretty high elevation. We have a lot of pine trees, and so that actually the mountain up above that goes up to about 7,000 foot elevation. And that water we use for irrigation sometimes. This is in the valley where I live. This is a picture of some of our cows, and you'll see the double ear tags. We have to double ear tag them, and it's really complicated, our protocols for the biomedical part of our business, and I won't get into that. In the background, you'll see Mount Shasta. That mountain is kind of a backdrop for most of our operations, and I think it has a lot of spiritual qualities. It's a pretty well-known mountain in Northern California. And this is just a picture of one of my pet bucks. We have a lot of wildlife, and I'm very protective of the wildlife. None of my family hunts, and so I just thought I'd share that picture with some of our deer that we have out here in California. He was sitting at one of my barns here on this property. This is a picture of our feed lot, and in the background you'll see our solar arrays that actually power the slaughterhouse facility. So that's just one of our, I think that's a heifer that we're about to be. And I couldn't help but throw in one picture of one of our baby calves. We raise Angus and Herefords, and then we cross the Angus Hereford breeds, and that's what's known as a black baldy. When you see the black cows with the white faces, those are commonly referred to as black baldies. And that's the only two breeds that we use, and that's part of our agreements for protocols. Here's one of our winter ranges down in the northern part of the Sacramento Valley. This is in the springtime, and where the cattle, they like to, what you call shade up. They like to get underneath the trees. And you see we have the red cattle and the black cattle. And then here's a picture of my husband Jim, and this is on our kill floor. I didn't want to send too many pictures, but this is a cow head he's boning out. We slaughter 1 day a week, every Tuesday morning, and we slaughter about 24 head a week, which equates to about 1,200 to 1,300 head a year. So everything is hand done. We're not we're an artisan operation. Here's when we do branding. These are a couple of our guys that help us with the cattle, and we're branding a calf. And that's Mark and Adam, and they're putting our brand in. We have to brand calves as they're fairly young. Here's a picture of our feed yard. Because we're certified humane, we only have a few animals in each pen at a time. And what makes us really different and unique from big R operations, in contrast to a conventional feed yard, we only have about 300 or 400 head at a time in this. They have lots of space. And once a week, Mark, our herdsman, will go out and visually select the cattle. And so we do a real, as I said, an artisan approach, because we know visually, you can tell by looking at their tail heads and their chests, their briskets, if they're ready to slaughter or not. So everything is done with very thoughtfully, and so that we can produce the very best product we possibly can. So the next slide, is there another slide? Oops. As you see, you'll see the Angus and the black baldies there. Another thing about this operation, because of the biomedical part of the process, we cannot transfer any, we can't use the same vaccination needle between animals. So we have to use disposable needles and syringes for every single vaccination that these animals get. That's a very expensive part of the operation. And then when we castrate, we have to use disposable scalpels also. So that takes a lot of time and a lot of work.
Great, I'm frozen.
Okay.
Okay, let's.
I don't know.
Oops.
I lost you. Speaker. It's okay.
Okay, I'm finished. I don't know who's next. Oh, there's one of our bulls. In the background, you'll see our slaughter facility, and this is just in our feed yard. I was trying to get a picture of the slaughter facility in the background. Again, we're certified humane, and I don't know if you can see, but we have solid sides as the lead up in the background in the green area. That way the cattle, we use rubber mats. The cattle aren't stressed as they go up to be harvested.
Okay,
everything's
guys,
based on.
I'm sorry. This is Stacy. I'm with EarthEcho. It looks like we're having a few technical difficulties from our end, so sorry to kind of leave you stuck there for a minute. But I thought maybe we need to go now to Stephen, and kind of go answer the question there.
Yeah, I'll just chat a bit. I'm not sure that I mentioned it, but we are an organic poultry operation. We're outside now on our patio. We've got 4 houses on this farm, 2 on the other farm. We are, I believe, in the organic chicken capital of maybe the world. Purdue Farms has a division here, Coleman Natural, and we have another vertical integrated operation, Farmer's Pride, which sells Bell and Evans. And between the 2 of those organizations, we have a lot of organic poultry produced and marketed all across the country. So that's one thing about our area, in addition, of course, to a significant dairy enterprise, significant swine enterprise, and a significant egg industry that we also have, along with a lot of other industries. If I remember right, the last question was, and I'm just going to address that a bit. What might be out there for youth that are maybe in high school or headed to college or maybe in college? I can tell you that the producers in this country, the United States, amount to about 1.8% of the population, which is a very low number. We also employ as support another 8 or 10%. So it's almost 4 or 5 times the number of farmers that are also out there in agribusinesses and all kinds of lines of work that help us to support. And it appears from my travels and talking to other agribusinesses, talking to industry, and talking to organizations that support farmers, they are in need of qualified college grads with ag degrees, all kinds of degrees. I was at a couple meetings this week that threw it out there and said, hey, if you know of somebody that's got an ag business degree, we're looking for people. So the whole support side, not only on the environmental side, but the production side, you know, the for-profit, the non-profit entities that work with farmers. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there, and if you look at the country's recession since 2007 that we're now coming out of, what, 3, 4, 5, 7 years later, the ag community did not have a recession. We are probably one of the strongest industries holding on to that part of the economy. Much of it's because of the globalization and our exports to a hungry world, and a world that's looking for protein, and we've been able to provide that in many cases. So, you know, it may have been one way 15, 20 years ago, but it's fastly becoming an exciting field.
Great. Let's go to Caroline. Caroline, do you or any of your classmates have any questions for either Mary or Roger?
Do any of you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Here, come up.
Yeah,
Yep, we have one coming. Oh, back up.
You're gonna have to scooch down.
Sit in the chair, Nate.
Sit in the chair.
There you go. Now say hi on me.
I have a question. What is your farm doing? Like, I guess you already touched on this, but what are some specific things you guys are doing as far as, like, if you have any nutrient management plans to help benefit the Chesapeake Bay and prevent eutrophication?
Yeah, I'll be happy to address that. Our litter, poultry litter, is tested every year for macro and micronutrients, and we also test our soils. And we are limited. It's not only good business, but it's regulation that we are limited to applying our nutrients based on science on what that crop will utilize, both in nitrogen and phosphorus, and not a pound more. And you heard me mention that our cation exchange, that's called CEC, of our soils on the sandy side, low organic matter, and as the result of that, it doesn't hold a lot of nitrogen. And we have found over the years that we can get better crops and better residual plant nitrate levels if we spoon feed that crop as it's growing. So it's consuming that nitrogen as we're applying, rather than dumping it on at one time early in the season and having the risk of either runoff or groundwater contamination. So nutrient management is a big deal, and it's not only good for the environment, but we're only buying those nutrients that we need, that the soil as it mineralizes isn't producing, or that the litter doesn't produce. So when we have limitations on phosphorus, on how many parts per million that it can be, and we can't go over that threshold, that's also good business. So yeah, it's a very comprehensive and managed, scientifically based program on applying all kinds of litter, not just our farm, but anybody that's got any scale.
That's a great system. Thank you.
And Mary, I know that you're not obviously in the Chesapeake Bay watershed like both of our other participants here, but do you guys employ any nutrient management things?
Oh, we do all kinds of things. Of course, as I describe, our operation is spread out over 5 counties, and so we have, specific situations it actually, involved that we use different kinds of practices. Some of the things, as I said, a lot of our land is certified organic, and so we use, one of the other crops I failed to mention is we do raise wild rice, and part of that wild rice is certified organic. We add chicken manure, organic chicken manure to it. So we do that. Again, we're very conscientious about making sure no chemicals get into rivers, our streams. So we do that. We also, up at the headquarters, we take the manure from our feed yard and apply it to our pasture land. So we try and utilize as much of what we produce and bring it full circle and increase our productivity with our fields by using our own manure from the feed yards. So, and I also wanted to just mention one other. My husband and I are really involved in an organization called the American Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers, and it's an organization that probably manages about a quarter or 25% of the cropland in the United States. And if any of your students are interested as career opportunities, to visit their website. It's ASFMRA, and one of the other careers I'll add to the farm management part is the ag appraiser business. There's a real need for agricultural appraisers, and that's something that I like to encourage young people to think about. There's going to be a real shortage of them in the next 10 to 20 years, and it's an excellent opportunity for a young person to get into that field.
Great, Mary. We'll actually add some of those resources to our website after this so that students can access them. And for both Mary and Roger, we had one question come in from a school, and they want to know that, especially with the holiday season coming up, what's the most important thing that we can know about our food choices when we're making them?
Wow. I try to re-educate myself on a daily basis, and the internet has just been wonderful at that. And I will tell you that hands down, the American consumer has the safest, most abundant, best quality food in the world, and we take it for granted. I just read an article in Successful Farming, and the numbers might be off a tad, but of disposable income, the average consumer in the United States spends 6.6%, and Pakistan is 47.7%. Brazil is like 16.8%, and there's a number of other developed countries that are over 20%. And we have a USDA, believe it or not, that does a great job of ensuring our safety. Yes, when you deal with as many food products as they do, maybe one slips through the cracks once in a while, but we have it great, and we need to be appreciative about it. And the holidays are a great time to do that. We just got past Thanksgiving, we're headed to Christmas, and I love it.
Mary, do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, yes, I sure do. One thing, I visit with a lot of our customers, especially in the Bay Area from San Francisco, and the biggest issue that our customers seem to have is the humane treatment of the animals and how they're harvested. And so our certified humane label, and that's something that the students can also research, is really important to us, and it's very important to our customers. The organic label has been important. Our product was primarily organic. They changed the standards as to how the animals had to be raised. It's a long and complicated explanation, but we now sell our product as a natural product, though we still certify our rangeland. But that's also important. I think it's really important that the consumer understands where their food is coming from. There is kind of a wide range of approaches, of practices in terms of raising animals and processing. The processing is huge also. We are strong proponents of transparency, and we invite people regularly onto the ranch, and if they are interested, we have no problem with having them go onto our kill floor, because there's really nothing there that we're ashamed of how we're doing it. We try and treat the animal with respect as much as possible. Jim and I are friends with Temple Grandin, and that's another, there's a great movie about her. She's an animal behaviorist from Colorado State University, and she has done more for welfare of livestock in the world, actually, than any human being on the face of the earth. And she's a fascinating human being. But I have a quote of Temple's over our knockbox that refers to the fact that the a place where an animal dies is a sacred place, and we really try and give dignity and respect to these animals, each one of them individually, because they are contributing to us as human beings. Another thing about our particular product that's different is that each one of our animals, when we have a package of meat, you can look on that package and it'll have the animal ID number. So we ID these calves about the time 24 hours after birth. They're ear tagged, they have their own individual ID number, and we keep computerized records on these animals from the moment they hit the ground till they go out the door as a finished product. So that's something that we do that's probably different than most other operations.
Great. Did you have something to add, Roger?
Yeah, just to follow up on what Mary said and follow up what I said a minute ago. The American consumer has many choices. You have the choice to buy traditional commodity conventional food. You can buy non-GMO food. You can buy organic food. You can buy it from the next door farmer, and you can buy it from the supermarket. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, there's not a right or wrong. The best part of it is you have choices. You can investigate. You can determine what is right for you and your family, and you vote with your pocketbook. So. Yeah, it's just a wonderful place to be grocery shopping.
Thank you, Roger. And I think that's a really, really good point. I think that is something really important that students and families can think about going into this holiday season as people start to prepare their Christmas menus and that sort of thing. Caroline, did you guys have one more question? We do want to wrap it up here and be respectful of everyone's time.
Yes, we do.
Go ahead.
I'm Jake, and with your cattle, do you dehorn them or do you leave their horn there?
Could you hear that?
Do we dehorn them?
Yes.
Is that what he asked? Was it?
Yes,
yes,
that is.
We do dehorn the cattle. Yeah, but we follow a certain protocol as to the certified humane standards that we have to follow, and it's done as humanely as possible. It's not an easy process, but we do it when the calves are fairly young. The horns are not very big, and so it hurts for a while, but yeah, we do some dehorning, and because it's actually better in the long run. If you have cattle with horns, then they're knocking their heads around, hurting the other cattle, and they get caught when they're in the feed. If they're using a feed bunk or something, then they're hitting their heads. So it's actually better for the animal if they don't have horns. So yes, we do dehorn. But it's done in a very humane manner.
Great, thank you for sharing. I do want to kind of wrap it up and be respectful of everyone's time. Before everyone heads out today, I want to let you know that you can always get more information about agriculture from our website, www.earthecho.org, especially on our expeditions page. Day 2, What Happens When We Eat, was filmed in Lancaster County, and it really focuses on some of those best management practices that farms have put into practice to reduce their nutrient load and to really help prevent dead zones. In addition, you can connect with us on social media. You can always email me, education@earthecho.org, with any questions, and we will be sure to share some of the resources that Mary and Roger mentioned on our website as you guys do some more research into these topics. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It was really great having you, and enjoy your holiday season. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.